3, 2, 1. Happy Culture Days, everybody. I'm so excited to be able to have Danita Stallard here. She's a wonderful artist in our community. Danita is a graphic novelist and also has done graphic art projects in our community. I think she's one of the talents in our country, and we're so excited to share her with all of the rest of the country and the rest of the world. And one of the novels that Danita has done is called Flann, and this is what it looks like. I highly recommend everybody to grab a copy if you can. It's just an amazing work of art. And Danita, I met her actually one of the very first Culture Days events that we had was we asked her if she would teach calligraphy to some young students as part of one of our Culture Days events. And she sent me these amazing little thank you letter with doodles and all over it. And I thought, this is an amazingly talented individual. And like I told her before, like as soon as I met her and her art, she just sparkles and it just oozes creativity. And so excited to be able to have Danita here to talk about her passion for her medium of art, and just to have a little bit of a chat with her about it.
Thanks for having me. Like I'm excited to come out and share and talk with you today.
Well, it's just a privilege. So how did you get into this? Like, how did you develop this art?
I have been a doodler forever. Both my parents will attest that there was not a blank piece of paper in the house. If there was a tiny scrap and a pen nearby, I was doodling. And the storytelling was also a passion that just I like telling stories. And you kind of have that aha moment one day where you go, I can put my doodles with the stories and make a thing, right? It took me an embarrassingly long time to come to that conclusion, but I got there.
Well, talking about a long time, to make a graphic novel, what's the process of making something like this? Like the work that would be involved in all of this, like how long did it take you?
It is a long process. When you're working with a team, like you would generally have somebody who does the inking and somebody who does the coloring and another person who lays out all the words and makes sure the page look correctly. And I'm the crazy person who decided to do it all by herself. I'm everybody on the team. So it did take a long time. It was a passion project. You start with your character development and move on to storyboarding the story out. And all told, it was probably close to 1.5 years from the initial starting of the penciling. And
wow. Well, it's just this beautiful work, and I'm so excited. We live in a town called Flann, and that's where Flann gets his name, I surmise. And
you got that. It was
I got it immediately.
Oh, I'm glad.
So creative and wonderful. And she is like this, the protagonist is a she, this female prospector, and I don't want to give too much away, but tell me a little bit, how did you come up with this story per se?
It's kind of my love story to the area. I based a lot of the influence off of, I don't know if people have had a chance to read The Sunless City, but it's a novel that is where Flin Flon got its name from. It's a story about Mr. Flintabouty Floniton, who is an explorer who builds a it's not magical, it's a mechanical fish submarine that he takes down underground to search for gold and other adventures. And I just was always really entranced by this adventure that this man's gone on, and I figured, well, you know what, I want to tell my own story. So
well, I find it so fascinating because it's a little bit like an onion peel. For people that aren't familiar with Flin Flon, or the name of our town, it comes from a character called Flintabouty Floniton in this Sunless City. And when I moved to town, I feel like it's a bit of a confessional, but when I came to town, the word Flann, it just seemed like such a quirky name, and as I was trying to promote our community, I was thinking, why can't I be represented by a wolf or an Inukshuk? It's this middle-aged prospector, and it's not fair, and
But that's part of the charm, is that we've got this quirky little character.
I completely agree. And there is such a connection with art and our name, and all wrapped in. Like the famous Al Cap designed our character, he was creator of Little Abner, and the Flann, since its beginnings, was always connected with art. And to think of, it was the Whitney family, the Whitneys of New York, that put the first investment of there's $28 million into our mine.
Oh, wow.
And when they first came here, there was always from the beginning this real understanding of excellence in art, because there was a real priority to them in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And so even from the very beginning of our town, if you were, it was in the middle of the Depression, they could hire anybody in North America to work in the mine. So what the founding fathers did is that if we could hire an extremely talented artist to work in the mine, or a good banjo player, or a hockey player, or a tenor or a bass, these are the people that we want to build our community. So even from the beginning, there was this kind of exceptional understanding of the importance of art in the role it plays in society. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, I'm a little bit of diatribe. This is your interview, but I just wanted, it just feels like this direct link to go from that time to the wonderful Danita Stallard and the artwork that we have now. It's kind of interesting. One of the things we talked about a little bit is just the role that graphic novels play in society. Mm-hmm. And it's had this resurgence. When I was a kid, there were comics. My family, I'm holding on to my Millie the Model, and my son still holding on to
you gotta keep your favorites.
These are we loved all comics, bar none, all comics. And then it seemed to have a little bit of a siesta for a while, and then all of a sudden it just has this huge resurgence. Why do you think? What happened?
It's more accepted now that you can have a visual novel as something that is a piece of art and also a story. There was a kind of a pushback after the golden age of comics, where people go, those are only for people who like comics. Mm-hmm. And they didn't realize that it's not just a superhero comic, which was really big for a while there. You would go out to get your Batman or your Superman or your Spider-Man, that kind of thing. And people have slowly begun to realize that you can get your mysteries and your romances and your sci-fi and your fantasy. Like, you can get your big genres, but in this different format where you've got your written word story, mm-hmm. which is how you generally take in a book, right? Mm-hmm. But you can also have your story in the background with your art, and mm-hmm. it's just a really cool way to marry the two things and have a completely different medium.
Right, and share what you were telling me about Shakespeare too. That was new to me.
Yeah, it's really cool that I can't remember the name of the artist, but they've gone and done the entire collection of Shakespeare's plays, but they've made it into a graphic novel format, and specifically in a manga, or the Japanese style of drawing, which really appeals to the teenagers, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, what's neat to me about that is when you get Shakespeare in school, it's kind of hard to swallow because it's written. You're reading it, and that's mm-hmm. not how Shakespeare was meant to be taken in. You're supposed to watch it, right? So by putting it in a graphic novel format, they've made it more accessible and more understandable and more enjoyable especially to the teenagers who are studying it in high school, right? And all of a sudden it becomes something fun and something to look forward to. And
well, you're absolutely right. I think it's a medium that is so accessible to everybody.
Mhm.
We have a little, I call it the Marvelous Mining Main Street. And, you know, it's had its few challenges. There's a few vacant windows. And we asked Danita just to give it a bit of love and to...
That was a fun project.
And to decorate them, and we'll show some pictures of that. But there's some of them that, you know, there's one little building that's sort of at the end of life building. And shall we say that we've just given love to. There's this serendipity fairies she put on them, and it just feels so happy. It feels like it's such a happy building.
It was such a pleasure to work on.
Well, and we just can't thank you enough. So I find that art and culture and the visual arts as well as the performing arts have just such an important role, maybe even more so right now with what we're going through in society, but such an important role in helping us feel connected and reminding us of beauty, even if it's you're driving by in your car, and always seeing something new and fresh. And so I think I just want to just thank you so much for being part of that.
Well, thank you for having
sharing
me
with us.
Yeah, no, it's always a joy to go on these artsy adventures with you. You always come up with great ideas, like let's paint some windows. I'm like, yes, let's paint some windows. Let's do it.
Well, it's just amazing to me because when we're talking about doing something like the size of for a book, and then like a huge window, and trying to translate that, you just did such a great job, and we just appreciate it. So what's next in your world? Like where?
Oh, there's always artsy adventures happening over here.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah. Right now we're working on getting book 2 up and running.
So excited.
And so that'll be taking up a lot of time.
Yeah, well, I think we have a bit of it right now. So.
Just a little bit.
So, I know. I took up my knitting, and I'm halfway through my scarf. I started in March. And I gotta get like a little faster, but
No. That is a journey. Knitting and crocheting is something I
know.
I will give props to people who are good at.
It's going to be creative because I took out the knitting needles from I think it was 12 years ago, and I had just little teeny weeny balls of wool. So it's not going to be anything. It's going to be a serendipitous scarf.
Just call
a COVID scarf.
Just call it a mosaic of joy.
It's going to be a mosaic of joy.
There you go.
Well, again, so thank you, everybody. Wishing everybody a wonderful Culture Days. Still about another month to go, and I want to thank Danita for coming down here to the Flann Arts Council office
Thanks
to
for having
share
me.
everything about her wonderful talents. And check out her book, Flann, if you get a chance to grab a copy. Hopefully, there's still a few copies around.
Oh, I've still got a couple.
So I call. You can always touch base with the Arts Council office or your website.
You can find me at flittermouse.ca, FLITTERMOUSE.ca.
There you are. Thank you very much, and have a great Culture Days.